Hello, I'm Paula Blair and you are listening to Audiovisual Cultures, the podcast that examines aspects of and issues around forms and modes of image and sound-based cultural production. Thanks to all our Patreon members and to everyone who's been listening, sharing and engaging on social media. Do listen until the end to find out how to do those. This time I'm delighted to present performance artist Sinéad O'Donnell. Sinéad very kindly let me record a talk and performance she did with her exhibition at the Millennium Court Arts Centre in Portadown, which you'll hear after a few words from me recorded beforehand, and some of the sounds you'll hear are from Sinéad's performance. So it's Paula here and I'm in the Millennium Court Arts Centre in Portadown in Northern Ireland. It's the afternoon of Saturday the 16th of February, and at the moment Millennium Court has an exhibition on by Sinéad O'Donnell called Crossing Permissions. Sinéad is a performance artist originally from the Republic of Ireland and she's been based in Northern Ireland for quite a while now. She's going to do a performance and talk from 12 until 1, so a few of us are here for that. We're just having a quick look around Sinéad's exhibition. There's quite a lot going on here. In general terms, it's performance actions, and a lot of the work around the gallery is documentation one way or another of the actions. It might be photographs, videos, but also the detritus from live performances, the materials on the floor, and also clothing that Sinéad had been wearing during performances or materials that she was working with. They're not hanging in the gallery, almost like documents themselves as well as materials. So the whole idea around Crossing Permissions, I'll just read the gallery text here. Crossing Permissions was a year-long project where artist Sinéad O'Donnell travelled, lived and worked with women in Tokyo, Montevideo, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Fukushima, Bangkok, Solo and Portadown. Each residency formed an exchange of ideas and experiences between Sinéad and the women, with Sinéad then making a performance and exhibition reflecting on the issues. This exhibition features elements from each residency and includes photographic, sculptural, performance art and video works. A comment from Sinéad: Crossing Permissions is the title that I used to describe a process that was like an unravelling of self, art and others through or driven by feminist feelings through my performance practice. As a project, Crossing Permissions for me was about mutual exchange, living and working alongside women. I shared my stories and they shared theirs. This is a project commissioned by Millennium Court and supported by the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, Major Award, the Flax Art Studios Arts Centre, ongoing Japan Exchange Residency, British Council Northern Ireland and Armagh City Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council.
Portadown today. As you know, I'm Sinéad and this is my year-long project Crossing Permissions. My journey started in Montevideo, which is the capital of Uruguay, and I was researching and investigating femininity landscapes and how I could create these landscapes through performance art. A lot of the work that I've made was planned but not rehearsed, so none of the performances are rehearsed, so it's not theatre. Some of the work was made directly to camera, so the camera was the only witness, and the other 50% of the work was made to live audiences. These 6 pieces here were made to camera on a beach in Montevideo, which is the sea between Uruguay and Argentina. This is at sunrise, so a lot of my work you'll see light and dark is because I'm quite fascinated with sunset and sunrise and the times of the day when the light changes. Also in different countries there is no sunset, so it's like a light just goes off. I'm quite interested in light, in natural light, in how the body can take different formations according to that light. This is called Yamoja, and the reason I called it Yamoja is because Yamoja is the sea goddess in this specific beach. And the Afro-Brazilian community, part of their religion is to worship this goddess, so they worship it twice a year. So I was there a little bit out of season. So that's the significance of the location. As I said, I don't rehearse my work. I trust intuition and spontaneity. Although I do have the idea and I do have the setup of where I'm going to go, I'm never particularly quite sure until I begin what the action is going to be. So I used rice paper, and I worked with the rice paper in the sea. And the rice paper, in a way, the way I'm moving it, I'm drawing with the rice paper, but it's not traditional drawing with pencils. It's drawing through action. So these are the paper. This is the same paper from the image. So I was quite fascinated that I could dip these inside the sea and pull them out, and they didn't break, only a little bit. So then I wasn't expecting that, so I became really fascinated with traces and what is drawing. Drawing is an action, but obviously I'm not using graphite or pencil. I'm using the motion of the action. Also, the rice paper becomes extremely heavy when it's inside water, so it wasn't easy to try to sail it or pull it behind me. Within this piece, I had a lot of feelings about migration, emigration, and sea crossings, and that kind of desperation, particularly for somebody who is trying to escape a war zone, but also who is anticipating what it's going to be like to be a refugee. So while I'm making the work, a lot of thoughts come through. Also, in terms of this dress for me represents emigration, and it was a dress I wore myself in my everyday life, but I knew that I was going to use it in a performance. So this dress travelled with me for a year, and it gradually became more and more stained. So here, it's only like a little bit of dirt on the top. But the more I was making the work, the more I was using the dress. You can touch it if you like. It stopped becoming a dress and became an art object. Kind of has a personality of its own. I feel quite distant from it now. I think if I hadn't have exhibited it, I would still be using it in work. And there has to come a time where I go, right, okay, I'm finished with this piece now. Also, what's very common in my work is I have a whole wardrobe of clothes that are stained by performances, and I keep them in my house. It's quite usual you see me in jeans and t-shirt because I don't have any clothes, because I go, I'll use that in my performance. Because I have to have an attachment to the garment. I find it really hard to just go out and buy clothes for a performance. I have to have some sort of attachment to it, or it has to have some sort of memory. So the original memory for this is my partner's permanent resident card process, which was very daunting. And this was the dress I bought for the party, which then made me think about emigration and migration and women and mythology. Moving from this piece, which was Yamota, I also worked again with rice paper because I was so impressed with how strong it was. So this kind of more brown area in the gallery, this is from Brazil. It's from a city called Campinas. Campinas is the LGBT capital of São Paulo, so it's not a heteronormative society, which was really interesting for me to live in. With this piece, we went to an extinct quarry, and in the base of the quarry, you can see down here, it's kind of like a swamp. It's more of a swamp than it is a pool. I brought some coats, which I bought in Belfast, and they were white, and I brought the rice paper, and I basically went into this area and worked for a whole day until I could figure out what the action was, until I could figure out what the idea was. So it's titled Red Clay Twin because it was made on my father's birthday, who is a twin. The way the video was shot, I felt that making a multi-channel screening was better to try to bring up the details, also because the colour is so strong. So I didn't want to edit it together as one piece because I just felt it didn't work. It worked better as a collage. It's quite difficult to select your own work when you've made a lot of work and you've got 200 photographs. So I settled on just one photograph. So the coats that I'm dipping, this is them dried out, and it still has a very strong residue. I mean, it's really, really reddish brown. So you can also touch these if you like to. So these were dipped into the water, into the mud. And a lot of artists in this area, they collect this red clay and they make ink with it for printing and painting with. So it is possible to mix this clay up and make an ink base. So I brought some back. You can mix it up with water. It's pretty strong. So I'm not sure if I was allowed to bring soil and clay back from Brazil, but I did. This is where the performance happens on the 1st of February. That performance was about 20 minutes long, and I've decided to just leave a trace of the performance in the middle of this space so that something has happened, something has appeared or disappeared. For me, from an artistic point of view, it's a map. So if you're a bird and you're looking down geographically, you're looking down on something. So for me, it's land, and it's some sort of representation of the world through flour and rice, two of the major food products that we import and export all over the world. These pieces behind you, I tried to focus on the body as an armour, and I was doing a lot of work with my hair and my face, with covering and uncovering with ashes. This further piece is ash and charcoal. This next piece here is they're branches from Buenos Aires. So I took the branches like 2 miles away from the space and dragged them to the space. So I created the branches. These two pieces here are in Indonesia. So I was trying to also find a balance between how to describe to a viewer a performance that has happened in a completely different geographical place than Ireland or then Portadown, and how do we give that second view without losing the essence of the integrity of the actual performance. This piece here was about famine and hunger. These two pieces here are about body as armour. So I think you want to do it. So again, my obsession with lights. With this piece here, it's called Rain Dance. These two photographs on the wall. So I would turn the lights off, apply paint with different materials to my body, and then I turn the lights on and expose it to the audience. This was in a rainstorm, so my feet are actually literally sinking down into the mud as I'm working. And I gave the audience plastic bags for their feet, so they're kind of standing around in front of me. Then again, because I was on this journey and this quite long, year-long project, I was able to look back at what I was doing and go, oh, I want to try that again, or I want to see how that will work. So then I decided to make a video, because this is not so interesting to an audience, a live audience. This is more interesting to a live audience. So also you're thinking of context. So this piece here is to camera, this piece here is to audience. But because I had time and I had studio time, I was able to go back to the studio. I was able to sit in the house and I was able to analyse what I'd done and think, well, I like that, I enjoyed doing that, it would work better if I'd maybe done it that way. So I had the opportunity to think about it, because usually you're on a flight, you've got your backpack, you've got your materials, you go, you make a performance, you come home, archive and documentation, that's it. So with this project I was able to kind of open up all of those aspects that usually people don't see. Again, I'm slowly sinking into the ground. It's quite a nice feeling until you get past your ankles and then you can't move your feet and you're starting to worry and you're looking for somebody to pull you out. And this is 5 p.m. So the timing, like this is 5 p.m, this is 8 p.m. These are like 7 a.m. These are 5 p.m. So for me, the light and the timing between Ireland and Asia, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, for me, I'm fascinated with the light. And when you wake up and you watch the light coming up, there's different sounds that you hear in a city or in a landscape. I decided to screen these 3 videos here. The first one is comfort, because it's about famine and food. So I was thinking about the word comfort and comfort food. So this is a purpose-built stage in the middle of a small village in Indonesia called Solo. And I worked for 25 minutes. It was very important in this performance. I constantly had holding my hair like somebody was pulling me up. There was a lot of restrictions around the body. There was no nudity, no cutting. It's a very Muslim society, so there was a lot of restrictions, particularly in terms of the female body. So I tried to work with that, which gave me a very different performance, but I was still happy with it. In this piece here, Silence, this is in Bangkok in Thailand, and I'm on a rooftop, and as the audience are coming up, there's no light, so I gave them, every audience member had a torch. So It was very difficult to film because of the low light, but I had to rely on my audience to like the performance. So you'll see it now. Maybe that title's a bit too long, or is it stuck?
I think it's been sitting on it for a while now.
Stuck. Yeah, we'll move on to Uruguay. This piece was made in a gallery called the Contemporary Art Gallery Subta. Subta is in the city centre in Montevideo. They had an exhibition running for 12 months in honour of the performance artist Clemente Paddy, who's in his 80s now. So each one of them would have a different artist. So there was 4 artists on this evening and I was one of them. Again, I used fire ash and charcoal to pour over my body, and I fed the audience baked beans. And inside these 2 rooms is paper. So a little voice is really intense now, very tired. Go back to silence. You can see the audience are trying to light me, so it's pitch dark. Some people were very much on top of me. Some people were a little bit afraid. Some people were playing with the lights. Because I didn't want to work in the gallery space, it was too small. And I didn't want to work in the garden because it was too social. So I found a roof space. And I quite like the idea of reliance. I know that my work is challenging for audiences, but at the same time I have to find ways to engage with that audience and that uncomfortableness. And by using the torches, it was a way of also kind of almost giving somebody something to hang on to, or giving them a responsibility, giving them that kind of authorship over the light. So this is in here. So it was quite big. It's quite a lot of people. And I was really happy because I was a bit worried, like, what if nobody comes up the stairs onto the roof? We'll just be sitting here in the dark. So you're kind of worrying, and you're like, I started to see people coming with the torches. I was starting to calm down a little bit. Also, darkness was very quiet.
And the ones you did the camera, is that just you and a tripod, or is there someone
Which one?
The when you're doing performances, just a camera without the audience?
This piece I worked with a press photographer.
Yeah.
I basically worked through the women's network in every country, or else set it up. Every aspect of the work is made with women. I was actually just thinking about that today, yeah. This female photographer, and I do have, yeah. So there's a lot of meetings, because when you ask somebody to take a photograph, and the photograph's your work, and they are thinking, well, why isn't the photograph my work? Like, well, you're not making it, really. Like, I'm doing it. I'm setting it up. So many discussions with photographers, disclaimers, kind of feeling, also saying, well, you know, if you want to do something, you can have my body, I don't mind, you know, trading. Also, when you don't speak a language and you're trying to negotiate in Spanish and Portuguese and Japanese and Indonesian, it gets really confusing. Yeah. So you just have very simple sentences. Can you take this photo at this time? What kind of camera do you have? And you have to do it really quickly, because I had like 2 to 4 weeks in each place. It wasn't very long. But yeah, I made a lot of connections and a lot of new friendships with other artists. So I can take you through to Gallery 2. I'm going to make a short action for you today. This is where it's going to happen. So usually this is just a bench. So I'll start with, this is Japanese mother and child. So this is my Japanese wife. This is made in an artist's cookbook. This is Sota. Sota is 4 months old at this time. And I had a residency in Tokyo at Art Centre abroad, and I said, you know anyone with a baby that would let me borrow their baby? Because years ago in Japan I made a photograph and I called Japanese nude, and I was sitting at a table in a position where my breasts weren't exposed when I was naked, so I had gorilla feet on under the table. And I kind of was thinking about that, and then I was researching mother and child images and religious images of mother and child, and looking at, is the child naked, is the woman naked? So also my partner is Japanese. Yeah, I wanted to make a mother and child image, and I borrowed a baby. And I went to the baby's house and I made a photograph. So it is very much about fertility, the aging female body, and that whole consciousness that men and women go through with age and childbirth and fertility. He's a very good baby.
This is gorgeous.
So then, also during this time in Japan, the ladies directly across from us are two older ladies who are teaching me how to cook Japanese style. And for me it was a way of understanding older Japanese women, very little English. This is at like 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's early risers. And we're in the house for the whole day cooking and eating and sharing and chatting and talking about the pressure cooker and how many times it had to be fixed over the last 50 years. And this lady, she's been married for 55 years and she's had her pressure cooker for 55 years. So, really nice conversations and setting up these encounters, and the kind of local people have been really open to me doing it. Yeah, come to my house. So you're not actually in the gallery doing it, you're in somebody's house at their kitchen table, With this piece on my right, it's called a women's gathering. The power of laughter is the power of women. So I organised some women's gatherings basically from artists, curators, critics, art managers, students, and we sat together for 3 hours and talked very intensely about how their life is as women in the arts in Japan. And I decided to edit the video to only when they were laughing, because there was a lot of issues around privacy and disclosure came up, because you can't plan what's going to come out in a conversation like that. So rather than censoring the fact that the gathering happened, I edited it only when we were laughing, because we laughed more than we felt sad. And this is unusual, to be in the house and have drinks and food and chatting. It's not Japanese style at all. It's culturally completely different. So the women really enjoyed themselves. They just felt a little bit self-conscious about what they were disclosing on film. So my way of working with that and turning it into a positive was editing just when we're laughing. It's quite funny because when I have exhibited this piece in the past, people always go, what are you laughing at? There's that curiosity.
Did they all speak English then, Sinead?
No.
No, so how did you deal with emotions?
I
How did you deal with
I have no
language?
idea. It's just something I can do. And there's bits and pieces, and I know a little bits of Japanese, but no, I had no idea. Just something I'm good at. And I think also being an artist, you figure out different ways of communicating. So you can communicate through food. So if you have an activity, then your language is already there. So cooking or sharing or laughing. I mean, most of the time I hadn't a clue what they were laughing about anyway. But I just thought, I get giddy, so I was just giddy. And then it's like, then we were all getting giddy. Look, they're giddy. They're already giddy on the build-up to this meeting at 6 o'clock in the house. And this is the residency house for the ongoing residency, and everyone was so curious, like, what's she doing? She's having a women's meeting. So why is she doing that? For me, it's so interesting that even the very simple things are controversial in a way. And also Tokyo is so big, so people travel for 2 hours in the same city to get somewhere. So it's hard to put things together, and it's hard to get group people to meet, because it's huge. I mean, when I was going to take this photograph, I didn't know where the house was, because you'll get to the street, but there won't be any numbers. So you don't know where anybody lives, but even the Japanese people don't know. There's a lot of work in behind exhibiting this work. There's a lot of putting together. This took 2 months to put together. This was like 20 minutes and we had this sorted and we had the baby. You know, this was trying to translate what I would like to do and if I could go to your house and can I put the camera on. But it actually turned out that these ladies cooked all of the food for my opening night. So all of the food we cooked was served on the opening night. Yeah, and it was a massive amount. I mean, I was there for 6 hours, rolling, and I was like, oh, because there's that thing lost in translation where I'm thinking, why am I here so long, and why are we cooking so much food? And then it's like, okay, now I get it. So there's little bits that are missing, and you're trying to pick them up along the way. You're wondering, why is this, and why are they doing that? This piece here, I worked with the Feminist Network in Tokyo. I was trying to figure out why women were so, I suppose, shy or introverted. Why there's so many female creators and so many male artists in Japan. So I had a lot of questions. So they sent me, the Feminist Network sent me to International Women's Day, and this is only the 2nd year it's happened, and that was last year. So this year is the 3rd year. And I had 20 minutes left on the camera. I set it up on a bollard and shot the march. And I had a friend translate what the chants were. But for me, what was really interesting was you had to meet at the international school to assemble. They must have walked about, I think it was about 6 miles in the rain. And then you get back, and then everything disappears really quickly, they're gone. On their website, they even said that it's okay if women wanted to wear glasses or wigs, disguises, masks. And I was really shocked because I was like, you know, why would you want to wear glasses or a mask? But then by the time I did all of the work, I realised that there's quite a lot of threats. And to be seen in a women's march can be dangerous. You can be targeted. So that was a fairly big thing for me to be able to digest, to understand, and try to continue to make it work and not react to that kind of boiling anger that you feel when you discover a suppression. So I went back to Japan. This was in March. I went back to Japan in September, and I went to Fukushima, which is the area that was destroyed by the nuclear disaster. And I went to a town called Iwaki, and Iwaki is about 5 miles from the actual reactors that exploded. And again with the lemon dress, I made work about the history of sex workers in this town before it was a nuclear town, and that desperation where there's so many abandoned houses and abandoned villages. You know, you're looking through a shop window and everything's still there, but there's no people because it's too dangerous for them to go back to their homes. So I sat on a public bench and I made a piece called Little Flower, and it's just 6 minutes long if you'd like to view it. And I'll meet you back at that bench, okay? I smell ginger.
say thank you to Sinead. It's been amazing to work with her for this time, and it's been just a great experience with us. Well, how have you, Sinead, feeling? We've got catalogues, if anyone would like one, you can have one to take. And thanks to the Arts Council for giving Sinead the annual award. Major Artist Award, sorry. A major Artist Award, which without you wouldn't really be able to meet this.
Probably would take 10 years to do the same work, but it was great to just go on that journey very intensely.
And it just shows to every artist, try for it, because we didn't know.
No.
You never know. And it's worth putting in an application, because sometimes they'll just see something in the work and say, oh, it's right, I want to develop it. It really gives you a chance just to concentrate on practicing.
Yeah, definitely.
And Sinead has worked so hard this year, just so hard. There's so much of yourself into it.
We've had many days in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I could go on 3 my knees.
You were covered in flour, but it was close. Thanks, everybody.
Huge thanks to Sinead for allowing me to include her enlightening talk on the podcast. You can find more information on Sinead's website, which is sineadodonnell.com. Thanks also to Joanna Leach and Sinead Brathnick-Cashel for the most excellent road trip between Belfast and Portadown. You've been listening to Audiovisual Cultures with me, Paula Blair, and Sinead O'Donnell. If you find the podcast useful, interesting and enjoyable, please support its continuation and improvement with a small monthly membership on patreon.com/avcultures or with one-off donations to paypal.me/PEA Blair. Be part of the conversation with AV Cultures on Twitter and Facebook. Find more information and previous episodes on audiovisualcultures.wordpress.com. Please like, share and subscribe on your chosen listening platform to help others find the podcast. All the best for now. Catch you next time.